I thought that I had done all the things that you have in your head you're supposed to do, to have those conversations.
There are moments in Hollywood when the mask slips, when the carefully constructed public persona gives way to something raw and refreshingly human. At 78 years old, Sally Field delivered one of those moments, sitting across from her interviewer with that familiar sparkle in her eye. The two-time Oscar winner leaned forward and did something most actresses her age would never dare. She named names. 7 names, to be exact. 7 leading men from Hollywood's golden era who had stirred something deep and primal within her. Men she had secretly wanted to sleep with. The room fell silent. Then came the laughter, the shock, the delicious scandal of it all. This wasn't a confession born of bitterness or regret. This was Sally Field, at her most authentic, refusing to pretend that desire has an expiration date. Number 1. Clint Eastwood. The first name that escaped Sally's lips was Clint Eastwood, and even decades later, you could see the effect he still had on her. Clint was never just an actor. He was a force of nature, a man who redefined masculinity for an entire generation. With that trademark squint and voice like gravel, he commanded the screen without ever raising it. There was something dangerously quiet about Clint, a simmering intensity that suggested violence could erupt at any moment, yet rarely did. He was the man of few words who made every syllable count, the cowboy who played by his own rules and made no apologies. Sally admitted she'd watch his films and feel something stir, a primal attraction to that unapologetic masculinity. They never worked together, never shared an intimate scene, but in her imagination, she'd wondered what it would be like to be the focus of that penetrating gaze, to be the woman who could make Clint Eastwood break his legendary silence. That fantasy alone was enough to quicken her pulse. But Clint wasn't the only one who'd inhabited her daydreams. Number 2, James Garner. James Garner represented something entirely different, a warmth that Clint's cool exterior never possessed. Jim, as everyone called him, had a smile that could melt glaciers and a masculine confidence that never tipped into arrogance. When Sally worked alongside him in Murphy's Romance back in 1985, she discovered what real chemistry felt like. Jim played a small-town pharmacist, weathered and wise, with eyes that held both humor and deep kindness. Between takes, Sally found herself drawn to him in ways that surprised her. He was older, yes, but age had only refined his appeal, given him a groundedness that younger men lacked. There was something intoxicating about a man so comfortable in his own skin, so utterly without pretense. The attraction wasn't just physical, though Jim certainly had his appeal. It was the way he listened, the way his presence made her feel both challenged and cherished. Sally knew the boundaries, respected them completely. But that didn't stop her from wondering what might have been in another life, another circumstance. And Jim wasn't alone in occupying that tender space in her heart. Number 3, Robin Williams. Robin Williams burst into Sally's life like a supernova, all chaotic energy and brilliance that couldn't be contained. Robin was unlike anyone else in Hollywood, a man whose mind operated at speeds that left others struggling to keep up. His comedy could fill stadiums. His improvisations were legendary. But Sally saw something deeper. Behind the manic energy and rapid-fire humor lived a soul of almost unbearable sensitivity. Working with Robin meant experiencing both extremes. One moment he'd have the entire set convulsing with laughter. The next he'd shift into such profound emotional vulnerability that you'd forget you were watching a performance. That duality captivated Sally completely. The attraction she felt toward Robin wasn't simple or straightforward. It was the pull toward someone whose inner world seemed as vast and complicated as her own. She wanted to know what it would be like to be held by someone who understood pain and joy with such equal intensity, to be seen by those sad, knowing eyes that had witnessed both the heights and depths of human experience. Robin awakened something in Sally that went beyond the physical into the realm of soul recognition. Yet even as her heart held space for Robin's complicated beauty, another set of eyes haunted her dreams. Number 4. Paul Newman. Paul Newman's eyes were the stuff of legend, those piercing blue orbs that seemed to look straight through pretense into truth. Paul wasn't just handsome, though he certainly was that. He represented an ideal, a man who'd somehow managed to be both a legitimate movie star and a genuinely decent human being. Sally would see him at industry events, usually with Joanne Woodward at his side, and feel a longing she knew was futile. Paul had found his person, had committed to her with a loyalty that was almost unheard of in Hollywood. But that didn't stop Sally from wondering, what would it be like to be the focus of those legendary eyes? To be touched by hands that built race cars and gave millions to charity? Paul possessed a calm authority that made other men seem like boys playing dress-up. He moved through the world with quiet confidence, never needing to prove anything to anyone. That self-assurance was devastatingly attractive in her private thoughts. Sally imagined conversations that would never happen, touches that would never be exchanged, a connection that existed only in the realm of possibility. Paul Newman represented the road not taken, the what-if that would forever remain unanswered. But he wasn't the only icon who'd captured her imagination. Number 5. Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck stood apart from other leading men, elevated by a dignity that seemed to belong to another era entirely. His voice alone could make Sally weak, that deep, resonant baritone that conveyed both strength and profound gentleness. Greg wasn't just an actor, he was a moral compass, a man who chose roles that reflected his own values and lived his life with integrity that inspired everyone around him. When Sally watched him as Atticus Finch, she wasn't simply admiring great acting, she was falling for the kind of man she wished existed in abundance, a man who could be both powerful and kind, strong and tender. The attraction Sally felt toward Gregory Peck bordered on reverence. It was the desire to be held by someone whose very presence suggested safety, to be loved by a man whose word meant something. She knew that fantasizing about Greg was different from her other attractions. This wasn't about raw sexuality or even romantic chemistry. This was about wanting to be close to goodness itself, to bask in the glow of someone who seemed to embody the best of what masculinity could be. Gregory Peck represented an ideal that felt almost holy, yet Sally's desire for him was deeply, undeniably human. And speaking of human desire, there was one man whose appeal was far more primal. Number 6. Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds didn't just walk into a room, he swaggered, all confidence and charm wrapped in tight jeans and that famous mustache. Burt was sex appeal personified, a man who knew exactly what effect he had on women and enjoyed every minute of it. When Sally worked with him on Smokey and the Bandit, the chemistry wasn't subtle. It crackled between them, visible to everyone on set and burning up the screen. Burt had a way of looking at Sally that made her feel like the most desirable woman in the world, a focused intensity wrapped in playful flirtation. He was the bad boy, the rogue, the man your mother warned you about, and that danger was intoxicating. Between takes, they'd laugh and tease, push boundaries without quite crossing them. But the attraction was mutual and undeniable. Burt made Sally feel alive in ways she hadn't experienced before, awakened a wildness she didn't know she possessed. Years later, she could still remember the heat of those days, the way her pulse would quicken when he entered the room. With Burt, there were no deep philosophical discussions needed. The attraction was primal, honest, and thoroughly enjoyable. But even Bert's uncomplicated appeal couldn't compare to the complicated intensity of the final man on Sally's list. The last one is Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman represented everything intense and demanding about the craft of acting. He wasn't conventionally handsome, didn't possess Bert's swagger or Paul's elegance, but Dustin had something more dangerous: absolute commitment to truth. Sally had worked with him and witnessed firsthand his obsessive dedication to character, the way he'd push himself and everyone around him past comfort into authenticity. That intensity was both exhausting and thrilling. Dustin demanded everything from his scene partners, refused to accept anything less than complete emotional honesty. For Sally, who approached her own work with similar dedication, that created a connection that went far beyond ordinary attraction. She was drawn to the fire burning inside him, the refusal to settle for surface performances or easy choices. Working with Dustin meant being seen completely, stripped of all defenses, and there was something deeply intimate about that vulnerability. The attraction Sally felt was inseparable from respect. Desire intertwined with artistic recognition. She wanted to match his intensity, to meet him in that raw, emotional space where great art gets made. Dustin Hoffman challenged her, frustrated her, and captivated her completely. Sally Field's confession at 78 wasn't shocking because she admitted to desire. It was revolutionary because she refused to apologize for it. In a culture that often treats older women as invisible, especially regarding sexuality and attraction, Sally stood up and declared herself fully human. These 7 men represented different facets of what draws us to other people, from physical magnetism to intellectual connection, from shared values to artistic passion. By naming them aloud, Sally reminded us that desire doesn't disappear with age. It evolves, becomes richer and more layered, informed by experience and unashamed of its own existence. Her honesty was a gift, permission for all of us to acknowledge the full spectrum of our own longings without shame. At 78, Sally Field proved that the most attractive quality anyone can possess is the courage to be completely, unapologetically themselves.